Mr. Begley and members of the board, we have several items for board discussion this evening. Our first item, emergency closing plan for the continuity of learning. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Aug.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Begley, members of the board, my item tonight is the emergency closing plan for the continuity of learning. The plan is in your board packet. We have approved something very similar to this in the past, but House Bill 33 required a name change and a few updates to the plan. So this plan allows us to make up 3 calamity days. This would only be after we used the 8 days already accounted for in our calendar. To use these days, we need to have a plan in place for continuity of learning, and the board must approve the plan prior to August 1st each year. We're doing that earlier this year just because of the changes required by House Bill 33. So the plan follows guidelines provided to us by OSBA. It includes guidance for things such as where lessons need to be posted, communication to staff, parents, and teachers, the timeline for how long students have to complete lessons, and what accommodations can be made for students who might not have a computer at home. The biggest change to this new plan is that we had to include synchronous learning opportunities, so allowing kids to Zoom in for some class time, if that's practical. I mean, depending on the situation, it may or may not be. So all of that is included in our new plan. We also had to get approval from FCTA, so they have seen that plan and they have signed off on it. And so it will be on the next board agenda for your approval. So unless there are any questions, that concludes my item for board discussion.
So the Zoom piece would be if there's a calamity day, they can have the option to Zoom in? Yeah.
Yes.
With a teacher that's here or?
The teachers will
working
be
from home?
here on those days. Again, it's just so hard to know what the situation will be. Think if it was the hurricane that we had, so many years ago, and none of us had power, and we couldn't report to our school buildings, and so it's hard to say. So that's why the language in there is to the extent practicable. We will offer that option if needed.
But just to clarify, Mrs. Aug, that's only if we get to a certain point with calamity day.
Right.
So it's very unlikely that this occurs. So your traditional snow day, what she's talking about does not apply if we have a snow day next week or the second half of February, because it's supposed to get colder the second part of the month, then it wouldn't apply to that. Only if we run out of days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, our next 2 items for board discussion will be covered by Mr. Perry. He'll be discussing potential renaming of the Performing Arts Center and EPC bus bids. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Begley, members of the board, I have 2 topics for board discussion this evening. The first topic being the renaming of the Performing Arts Center. I was contacted by Jay Muldoon and Mindy Reed, both who oversee the Fairfield High School theater program, with questions about the process to have the PAC renamed after Jim and Pat Davis. Board policy references the renaming of existing facilities in Section F, Code FF. Renaming is permitted if the person has special significance and/or the person has made an outstanding contribution to the school and/or district. Jim and Pat founded the theater program here at Fairfield High School over 50 years ago and continue to have a positive influence on the Fairfield City School District theater programs for many years after. Their work is still evident today. Mr. Jim Davis sadly passed away at the end of October earlier this school year. Jay and Mindy would lead a presentation to the board at the next meeting highlighting the reasons why they are requesting to rename the Performing Arts Center to the Performing Arts Center, the Jim and Pat Davis House. The term house is used to reference any area of the theater that is not a playing space or a backstage area. I had to ask that question because I did not understand that. But they both explained that that term means quite a bit to those who work in that space. The name on the exterior building would not be changed, and the process would be similar to the renaming of the Catherine D. Milligan Community Room that we are in currently. So with that, does anybody have any questions or?
I think that's a great idea.
They were very passionate in our meeting in reference to Jim and Pat. Yeah.
Great. Look forward to their presentation at the next meeting.
Thank you. Excellent.
All right, our next item for board discussion is in regard to some board policies. At this time, I will turn it over to Dr.
All right,
Rice.
Mr.
Bus
Smith.
I was,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bus? Doesn't he have
Oh,
that?
yeah, that's right.
Wait,
My
so-
apologies.
Excited for that policy.
Nancy's rubbing off on me.
my second topic for this evening is the EPC bus bids. The Southwestern Ohio Educational Purchasing Council is the organization that completes an annual bid process for school buses. We use our membership with this organization to use this competitive pricing. Each year, the board must pass a resolution to continue our membership. I just wanted to take this time to highlight this process before presenting a resolution to the board for approval at the next meeting. So over the past couple years, we haven't discussed this topic. So in discussion with Billy, we thought it was best to kind of review why we do this every year. But it's a very simple process. The resolution itself is actually dictated by the organization. But the good news is that their pricing is much better than what we could get on our own. So we definitely, it's a positive thing for us to use annually. So, questions? Or?
Just an opportunity to be part of a larger consortium that allows us.
That's
Buying.
correct.
Purchase power.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, now, I know he's excited to review some of these board policies.
policies.
I'm
Good
just
policies
chomping at the
tonight,
bit to
yeah.
hear it, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Rice now in regard to some board policies.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Bagley, and members of the board. Under items for board discussion, letter C, board policy number 4, I have 4 pieces of policy for discussion, letters A through D, and 1 resolution for discussion, which I will talk through in a moment. In your board packet, I've included a copy of previous language, the proposed language, and a copy of the proposed resolution as per OSBA. Letters A and B, that is policy IGDK, interscholastic extracurricular eligibility, and policy JECBC, admission of students from non-charter. These are both revised policies. Both of these policies are additional changes from House Bill 33 that we've been talking about for a few months now. As a reference from earlier policy updates, home education is the new label for homeschooled students. It is defined as the education of a child between the ages of 6 and 18 years, which is directed by the child's parent. IGDK sets the requirements for home education students to participate in extracurricular activities. Policy JECBC removes the superintendent's right to, quote, to consider, quote, the most recent academic assessment report when a student seeks admission into the district after having been enrolled in a non-chartered school or receiving home education. That's letters A and B. Please let me know if you have any questions on those. Letters C and D, policy JEC, school admissions, and policy JN, student fees, fines, and charges. Again, House Bill 33 includes a new provision about transfer of student records. The law requires a student to provide a school to provide a student's school records upon request from another school district or school to which the student is transferred within 5 school days after the receipt of that request. The big change for us is this exception allows for schools to withhold school records if there's more than a $2,500 outstanding debt attributed to that student. Once that debt is paid up, then the transmit of the records is required. That is policy JEC and JN, letters C and D. Please let me know if you have any questions on those. And lastly, letter E, resolution to authorize the OSBA to review policies in light of House Bill 33 legislative changes. So we've been talking about House Bill 33 now for a few months. There are, in OSBA's estimation, over 100 policies that need to be changed because of this new law. So we would probably do nothing but change policies for the next year and a half if we took each of these in sets of 7 or 8 in front of you. So what this resolution will do is allow OSBA to go into our policies. We'll grant them access. They will then search all the policies that need to have simple changes. When I say simple changes, something like ODE is no longer around. It's now DEW. So every one of our policies technically has to be changed to reflect that. They will go into our policies. They'll check all of those policies. They're going to then provide me a chart that will show all the policies that need to be changed and how they need to be changed. I would bring that back to you for action. Our discussion one time, action the next. Then if we passed it, I would give that back to them, and then they will make those simple changes. They anticipate this taking them well over a year to do all of the districts, so this is a monster endeavor for them. And again, most of the time it's a one-word change. So that's as simple as I can say. So tonight's discussion is about that resolution, and then we'll ask for action at the next board meeting to grant them permission to go into our policies. Please let me know if you have any questions. That's all I have to present tonight.
Dr. Rice,
Yes, Mr. Barr.
statement and a question. One, it sounds like it's going to be a reliever of you not to have to go through
Right.
those one-word changes.
I
So
agree.
That sounds awesome. Two, is there a fee that we get charged for that?
There is not. We had that question, and I actually spoke with somebody at OSBA to better understand it, and this is part of our normal membership with them.
Okay, awesome. And then you get to review what they suggest, and you seal it, sign it, and deliver it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess that would be my only concern too, is that, our policies get changed by someone other than us, right? So as long as we get a chance to review it, as long as it's just the
Minor changes.
minutia and the minor, and yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I think we've worked through all the substantial changes for House Bill 33, the things that really changed a policy. These are going to be, one word here, one word there type changes.
Good.
So these are just small verbiage like control find in a document where I'm just changing
Absolutely.
all of them, replacement, got it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we have the ability
Yeah.
to pass it along to as experts who would microscope through
Yeah.
that so that it is not a hindrance on our district to do so.
Yeah, after talking to them, I think they're as annoyed as we are with House Bill 33 and all the different changes,
Been
so.
around for a while.
Thank you.
All right, our last item for board discussion this evening, resolution for 2024-2025 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So it's that time of year. Once a year, the district has to pass a resolution so that we can continue to be a member of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So I will have that resolution for you to consider for approval at our next board meeting. But again, we do this every year. It enables us to maintain our membership in the OHSAA. So, any questions on that?
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Smith, Mr. Perry, Dr. Rice.